A running back 7 months removed from a shattered ankle stands at home plate. He just hit a home run. Then he launches into the air, a full backflip, the same move that once got him in trouble. On the sideline, Giants coaches freeze, trainers freeze. Everyone watching that swing camera footage holds their breath for the same half-second landing. That single jump reopened a debate that had been simmering inside the Giants organization since October, whether the most electric rookie in years could ever be trusted to protect himself. Skattebo's backflip is where this story starts. Picture the scene. It's a charity softball game in Pomona, New York, hosted by Brian Burns. Dozens of Giants players are there, mixing with fans, playing dodgeball, signing autographs. Nothing about the night screams football stakes. Then Skattebo steps up to the plate. Skattebo entertainingly showcased his improving health on Saturday, launching a home run and capping the moment with a backflip during Brian Burns' charity softball game. He doesn't just trot the bases like a guy enjoying an exhibition game. He takes it slow, deliberate, like he's building to something. And right before he touches home plate, he plants his feet and throws his body backward into the air. Here's why that single jump mattered so much. 2 weeks after celebrating a touchdown with that exact same move last October, Skattebo suffered a season-ending dislocated ankle that was so gruesome. It was considered an emergency medical situation because it involved an open dislocation. So when he landed that flip at home plate 7 months later, he wasn't just celebrating a home run. He was putting the exact same joint that had been surgically rebuilt through a full-force test in front of everybody. The reaction was instant, and it wasn't just one person's. Watch the footage closely and you catch it, much to the surprise of center John Michael Schmitz, who's standing right there watching his teammate defy medical logic in real time. Schmitz's face says it all. Pure disbelief that Skattebo would even attempt it. Fans reacted just as fast, and not kindly. One person watching the clip circulate didn't hold back, writing that Skattebo had spent half a season rehabbing a brutal injury and shouldn't risk another one before the new season even starts. Another was blunter, saying they were starting to understand why he fell to a later round in the draft. A third summed up the split feeling perfectly, saying the good news was that Skattebo looked fully healthy, but the bad news was he was tempting fate. Then came the image that really lit things up, a photo circulating online showing John Harbaugh, the Giants' brand new head coach, watching the whole thing unfold from a distance, captioned as if he were watching Skattebo simply going out in public and doing something reckless. It became a running joke, but it captured something real. The Giants had handed the keys of their new offense to a running back who, mere months after a catastrophic leg injury, was doing backyard gymnastics for a crowd instead of easing back in quietly. The internal concern wasn't just theoretical either. When Harbaugh spoke to reporters days later at minicamp, the backflip was clearly still on his mind. He told the room he was happy with how Skattebo's recovery was progressing, saying the trainers had cleared him for group and team reps, and that Skattebo had worked incredibly hard to get there. Then he added the line that made headlines all on its own, that he'd mentioned to Skattebo maybe there should be no backflips out at camp, and that the two of them had agreed on it. Read between the lines of that comment, and you get the full picture of the panic. A head coach doesn't usually have to negotiate with a player about not doing gymnastics moves in the middle of a professional football practice. But that's exactly where the Giants found themselves, trying to manage a talented walking highlight reel who had shown, in the most literal sense, that he trusted his surgically repaired ankle more than his own coaching staff wanted him to. It wasn't just Harbaugh either. Reports out of the softball game noted the contrast between Skattebo and fellow injured teammate Malik Neighbors, who was also there rehabbing his own knee. While Skattebo was mid-air behind home plate, Neighbors was visibly limping around the bases after connecting on his own home run. Two players on the same rehab timeline at the same event, sending two completely different messages about caution. And it did not go unnoticed by anyone in the organization or the fan base watching from home. The softball game had raised over $100,000 for Burns' charity that night, all in the name of autism awareness, a genuinely good cause, a lighthearted summer event. And in the middle of it, one running back's split-second decision to flip backward turned into the single most talked about Giants storyline of the entire offseason. Beat writers who cover the team for a living dropped what they were writing to cover it. National NFL outlets picked it up within hours. ESPN's own insider on the beat had shared the clip, noting it was safe to say the running back was feeling fine. A comment that, depending on who you asked, read either as reassurance or as a coach's worst nightmare in one sentence. That's the moment. That's the jump. Now, to understand why a single backflip could throw an entire coaching staff into crisis mode, you have to go back to where this all began, to the night that ankle first came apart, and why every single person in that Giants building has been holding their breath about Skattebo ever since. To understand why one gymnastics move at a softball game could rattle an entire coaching staff, you need to go back to the night everything went wrong the first time. Skattebo arrived in New York as a fourth-round pick out of Arizona State, and almost immediately he became something the Giants hadn't had in years, a running back fans actually wanted to watch. Skattebo took the NFL world by storm as a fourth-round rookie in 2025, gaining fans in droves thanks to his violent bowling ball approach to the running back position. He wasn't just productive, he was fun. He ran through arm tackles. He head-butted teammates in celebration. And when he scored, he'd throw in his signature backflip, a move that turned him into a viral sensation practically overnight. That signature move showed up for the first time on the exact stage that would later haunt the franchise. New York Giants rookie running back Skattebo celebrated one of his 3 touchdowns with a backflip during the Giants' upset win over the Philadelphia Eagles. It was a signature performance, 3 scores against a divisional opponent, capped by an athletic display that had Giants fans dreaming about what this kid could become. Then, 2 weeks later, in the rematch, everything changed. The Eagles hosted the Giants, and Skattebo suffered a season-ending dislocated ankle that was so gruesome that it was considered an emergency medical situation because it involved an open dislocation, per ESPN's Jordan Raanan at the time. This wasn't a routine sprain. He suffered an open dislocation to his right ankle and needed emergency surgery that night in Philadelphia to repair the dislocation, tibia fracture, and ruptured deltoid ligament. Think about what that actually means in football terms. An open dislocation means the bone broke through the skin. It's the kind of injury that ends careers, not just seasons. It's the kind of injury where medical staff aren't thinking about next week's game plan. They're thinking about whether a guy will ever walk normally again, let alone cut hard on a football field. The play itself was almost too painful to watch on replay. Skattebo's leg got caught underneath him as he was tackled, and in an instant, a breakout rookie season turned into a hospital gurney. That injury ended Skattebo's rookie season after only 10 games. Before it happened, though, he'd already made his mark. Skattebo, a fourth-round pick last year, has been consistent this offseason in saying that he didn't accomplish much as a rookie, despite 410 yards rushing and 7 total touchdowns. He racked up those numbers in a fraction of a season, then watched the rest of the year happen without him. The Giants, for what it's worth, weren't exactly thriving without him either. The team's overall campaign fell apart around the same time his did. The Giants fired head coach Brian Daboll after the team started 2-8 last season. They finished the season with a 4-13 record. The franchise wasn't just nursing an injured running back through the winter. It was rebuilding practically everything at once. Coaching staff, offensive identity, and a locker room that had just watched its most electric rookie get carted off the field in Philadelphia. That image, Skattebo being carted off, his ankle wrapped, his season over in an instant, became the defining picture of the Giants' entire 2025 collapse. It's the image every beat writer referenced every single time they wrote an update about his recovery. It's the image that made the softball game backflip feel less like a fun off-season moment and more like a walking headline. And that's where the toughness question comes in, because Skattebo's whole reputation before any of this was built on refusing to play it safe. His mother, Becky, had told ESPN the week before his injury that her son had always been able to figure out how to get up, over, or through things. That as a kid, he'd run into telephone poles wearing his brother's pads just to practice taking a hit. That's not a guy who was ever going to come back from a major injury and suddenly play scared. Everyone who covered the team knew it. It's exactly why nobody was shocked when he came back from ankle surgery, still willing to throw his body into the air for fun. It's also exactly why it worried the coaching staff so much. By the time spring rolled around, Skattebo had already gone through surgery, months of rehab, and a slow, deliberate walk back to football shape. Skattebo had been spectacular before his injury in 2025, recording 410 rushing yards, 5 rushing touchdowns, and 207 receiving yards across his 8 games. That production is exactly why the Giants needed him whole. In a Giants system specifically built around a physical, between the tackles running identity, getting him back at full capacity is the offseason's defining question. That question hung over every single practice report, every minicamp update, every softball game highlight for the rest of the offseason. And it's exactly why, when Skattebo finally did land that backflip 7 months later, it didn't read as a fun moment of recovery. It read as a walking, breathing referendum on whether the Giants' whole offensive plan for 2026 was standing on solid ground, or on an ankle that still had something to prove. Getting from a hospital gurney in Philadelphia to a backflip at home plate took months, and almost none of it happened in public. Behind the scenes, Skattebo's recovery became a running storyline the Giants tracked through every offseason program. The rehab process wasn't glamorous. It was months of quiet, grinding work, the kind that doesn't produce highlight clips. Skattebo talked about it candidly when he got the chance, admitting the physical part wasn't even the hardest part of the process. Obviously, there's ups and downs in the injury process and coming back and rehabbing, but the mental battle has been the hardest part. Making sure that I trust it fully, Skattebo said, per Stephen Wino of the Associated Press. That's a rare admission from a player known for his toughness, that the scariest part wasn't the pain. It was learning to trust his own body again. He showed up to voluntary team activities before anyone expected him to. Skattebo was present at the Giants' OTAs, and The Athletic's Dan Duggan reported that Skattebo was suited up but not practicing, and he was seen getting coached up by the Giants' newly hired offensive coordinator, Matt Nagy. He wasn't running routes or taking live reps yet, but he was there, present, absorbing the new system being built around him. Then came the softball game and the backflip that started all the noise. In its immediate aftermath, reporters started looking for reassurance from the team, and they got it in fragments. The video shared widely online had racked up over 1 million views within days, proof of just how much attention was riding on this one guy's ankle. Whatever discomfort it caused inside the building, publicly the Giants leaned into cautious optimism. That optimism got tested again, just over a week later at mandatory minicamp. This time the stakes were higher because it wasn't a softball diamond. It was an actual Giants practice field, with actual coaches evaluating actual football reps. Frick and Frack were reunited in a live 11-on-11 setting. For the first time since Skattebo suffered an open tibia fracture and right ankle dislocation in October. That nickname belonged to Skattebo and quarterback Jackson Dart, the two rookies who'd become inseparable during their partial season together, and getting them back on the same field in a live setting was treated as its own milestone. Harbaugh, addressing reporters after that first practice back, made his approval clear, describing how the training staff had told him Skattebo would get some reps in group and team drills, and admitting he was glad to hear it. He praised the effort Skattebo had put in, calling it super hard work, twice for emphasis. And then, almost as an afterthought, he brought up the backflip again. The same joke about maybe holding off on it at camp. The same acknowledgement that the two of them had come to an understanding about it. That understanding didn't stop Skattebo from talking about his identity in the same defiant terms he always had. Asked directly whether the injury would change how he played the game, he was blunt about it. "It ain't gonna change who I am," he said on The Insiders when asked if he would alter his running style at all. "I had an injury. You know, it is what it is. I've still got plenty of football left, plenty of life left. I'm not going to let this little ankle thing bother me. I'm going to get back to running people over like you see on the videos. It's going to be normal Cam Skattebo from here on out." That's not the language of a guy who was quietly reconsidering his approach. If anything, it was Skattebo drawing a line in the sand, telling his own coaching staff, in public, that the physical brand of football that got him hurt in the first place wasn't going anywhere. He also made a point of publicly backing the very coaches who'd been nervously watching his highlight reels all offseason. Coach Harbaugh and offensive coordinator Matt Nagy. "I felt nothing but support and love from them," Skattebo said. "They're always on me about getting back, and they're starting to see where I'm at in my process, and they're starting to trust it. They've been really good to me. I trust both of those two, as well as everybody else on the staff. It's been nothing but joy and happiness for me, just starting to fall back in love with the game after an injury, for sure." It's a telling detail. Trust was the word doing the heaviest lifting in that quote. Trust between player and staff had to be rebuilt at the same pace as the ankle itself, and every single public appearance, every softball swing, every mini-camp rep was another data point in that rebuilding process. By the second day of minicamp, the story had already shifted from concern to something closer to disbelief at how far along he was. Watching the second-year running back work through agility drills during warm-ups on the first day of camp, as though his ankle had never been fractured, was another clear sign of his readiness. You further saw it when he caught a screen pass during Day 2's 11-on-11s and got so excited about it that you'd have sworn he just hit the lottery. That excitement mattered because it showed the emotional stakes were just as real as the physical ones. This wasn't a robotic rehab story. It was a 24-year-old getting his joy back for the game, one rep at a time, with an entire coaching staff watching his every movement like it was a stock ticker. But joy and caution don't always coexist peacefully in an NFL building, and that tension was about to come to a head in the most public way possible. Not on a softball field this time, but at the exact place Skattebo's whole career had been building toward training camp itself. To understand why the Giants staff reacted the way they did, you have to understand what John Harbaugh was actually building, and why Cam Skattebo sat at the center of it. Harbaugh didn't arrive in New York by accident. After the Baltimore Ravens fired longtime head coach John Harbaugh, he quickly found a new home in New York. Harbaugh's Ravens teams were known for their physicality and oftentimes run-first offensive identity. Harbaugh brought that mentality with him to the Meadowlands, so Skattebo will be a key piece in 2026. This wasn't a coach inheriting a running back he had to make work. This was a coach whose entire philosophy, smash mouth, downhill, physical, happened to line up perfectly with the exact skill set Skattebo brought to the field. Harbaugh made that alignment clear the moment reporters asked him to evaluate what he'd seen on tape. He described Skattebo as a downhill runner, a tone setter, the kind of tough tackle that's hard to find. He pointed to the way Skattebo made yards when he wasn't supposed to, tying it back to what he'd seen from him at Arizona State and what carried over onto NFL tape. It's about as direct an endorsement as a head coach can give a single position player. This is exactly the type of runner my system is designed around. That endorsement is precisely why the backflip scared everyone in the building so much. If Skattebo was just another depth piece, a twisted ankle risk wouldn't have mattered nearly as much. But he wasn't a depth piece, given Harbaugh's long-established reliance on a strong run game. Skattebo should feature prominently in New York's quest for a quick rebuild, likely leading an RB room that also includes Tyrone Tracy Jr. and Devin Singletary. Every gymnastics stunt he pulled off was a stunt performed by the single most important cog in an entire schematic overhaul. That's why Harbaugh's comment about backflips carried so much more weight than a throwaway joke. He wasn't scolding a player for showboating. He was, in the most polite coach speak available, asking his most important offensive weapon to stop testing structural integrity in a facility parking lot. The message got repeated by multiple outlets covering the same minicamp availability, each one zeroing in on the same two words, maybe no backflips, because it captured something no stat sheet could: a head coach negotiating gently but firmly with his own franchise running back's instincts. It wasn't just Harbaugh's words that signaled the internal unease. It was the entire pattern of behavior around Skattebo that spring. Multiple reports independently used almost identical language to describe the Giants' posture toward him: careful, cautious, deliberate. Maybe the 24-year-old should hold off on performing his celebratory move until he's scoring touchdowns in September. The New York Giants will be careful not to push Skattebo too hard, too early. That's an organization managing risk in real time, in public, under a media microscope, that had nothing better to obsess over that week than one guy's ankle. The contrast with fellow rehabbing star Malik Nabers only turned up the temperature on that unease. While Skattebo was mid-flip behind home plate, Nabers was working through his own recovery in a far more restrained way. Nabers' movement raised fresh concern rather than reassurance, and Harbaugh has already acknowledged the injury is not simple and that a Week 1 return is not guaranteed. Two rehabbing stars, two completely different off-season optics, one visibly cautious, one launching himself skyward for a crowd. It made the Giants' coaching staff's job of managing public expectations exponentially harder, because every camera at that softball game was now doing double duty as an injury update. Even outlets not usually focused on the Giants at all picked up on how unusual the entire situation had become. One national writer noted flatly that the backflip appeared to go smoothly, but it became a major point of debate among those following his progress. That's the tightrope the Giants staff was walking. A move that went off without a hitch still managed to become a controversy, purely because of what almost happened the last time he attempted anything like it. Behind the scenes, though, the tone from the building itself stayed remarkably positive even while the warnings kept coming. Harbaugh, addressing reporters again days later, doubled down on how pleased he was with Skattebo's overall trajectory, repeating that he'd worked incredibly hard to get back to this point. "I was happy," Harbaugh said. "He was telling me today, and the trainer told me too, that he was going to get some plays in group and plays in team, and I was like, that's where you want him to be. He's worked super hard. Super hard. I did mention maybe no backflips out here today. We agreed. There it was again. Praise and warning delivered in the same breath. The emotional whiplash that defined this entire stretch of the offseason. By the time minicamp wrapped, the Giants had gotten what they needed most. Reps without setbacks. There now seems to be little doubt, barring a significant setback, that he will be a full participant in training camp, beginning next month when the Giants report to White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia. That single sentence, buried in an injury update, represented months of anxiety finally settling into something resembling relief. But relief in the Giants building never seems to last more than a news cycle, because just as everyone exhaled about the ankle holding up through drills, cameras and reporters kept circling back to the one image that never stopped drawing eyeballs. That mid-air moment at home plate, and the question of whether Skattebo's refusal to change would eventually catch up with him once real football, with real contact and real stakes, finally arrived. By the time training camp actually opened, the backflip had already done its damage in one sense and its good in another. It had rattled the building, and it had also, in its own strange way, reassured it. The Giants themselves never wavered publicly on the timeline. The Giants have maintained that Skattebo will be ready for camp at the end of July. That target held through every single update, every practice report, every softball highlight that threatened to derail the conversation. And when camp opened in West Virginia, Skattebo showed up doing exactly what the Giants needed, participating in individual drills, taking handoffs, running routes, and catching passes. Skattebo's own words about his mindset never really shifted, no matter how many times reporters ask. Skattebo has insisted he's going to play with the same physical style that got him to the NFL. The injury will not change his mindset. It was just an unfortunate moment, and he's out to prove himself again. He even reframed the entire rehab process as a chance to start over, telling NFL Network he planned to approach the year like it was his rookie season all over again, because he felt like he hadn't really proven what he could do across a full 16 games yet. That refusal to soften has an obvious upside for a team that just hired a coach built around physical, downhill football. It also comes with an obvious cost, one that at least one commentator was willing to say out loud. Even while acknowledging the ankle injury was simply bad luck, there was a broader note attached to it, that the team and its fan base would probably like to see Skattebo be a little more aware that there's always another down to play, rather than trying to force extra yardage on every single carry. It's a subtle way of saying what Harbaugh was already implying with his backflip comments. The same fearless mentality that makes Skattebo must-watch TV is the same mentality that put him on a gurney in Philadelphia in the first place. The stakes only got higher as the calendar moved toward the season. Skattebo has his sights set on the Giants opener at home against the Cowboys on Sunday night, and he's said publicly more than once that he expects to be ready to go. "Week 1, I'll be ready to go," Skattebo said at a Giants town hall event. That's not a hedge. That's a running back putting a flag in the ground in front of the entire fan base, months before a single preseason snap. The Giants' running back room around him gives the team options if anything does go sideways again. At least the Giants can feel better about the running back position with Skattebo near full health. Skattebo and Tyrone Tracy Jr. give them two solid options at the position. Tracy has averaged 4.3 yards per carry in his first 2 professional seasons, and topped 1,000 total yards in each of the campaigns. That depth matters because it means the Giants aren't betting the entire season's ground game purely on one surgically repaired ankle holding up under a full 16-game workload. Still, everyone around the building understands what a fully healthy Skattebo means for that offense. If all goes as intended, this dual threat will establish himself as one of the most important components of Big Blue's offense next season. The numbers from his shortened rookie year back up why that hope exists. In 8 games last season, Skattebo ran the ball 101 times for 410 yards, scoring 5 touchdowns on the ground. He was even a threat through the air, catching 24 passes for 207 yards and hauling in 2 receiving touchdowns. His connection with Dart during that stretch backs it up even further. A passer rating north of 124 whenever the ball went his way out of the backfield. in a small sample that still managed to turn heads across the league. The softball game backflip, in hindsight, wasn't really about the softball game at all. It became the flashpoint for a much bigger question. The Giants have been quietly wrestling with all offseason, whether trusting Skattebo's body means trusting his judgment, and whether those are even the same thing. Harbaugh's gentle warning wasn't really about one goofy celebration. It was a head coach trying to protect the exact identity he'd built his whole career around, delivered through a player who has never known how to celebrate any other way. Skattebo hasn't backed off that identity, not once, in any interview, at any podium, in any offseason program. If anything, the more people asked him to tone it down, the more directly he told them it wasn't happening. That defiance is exactly what turned a rookie into a fan favorite in the first place. And it's exactly what had an entire coaching staff nervously watching softball footage from a charity event in Pomona, New York. Whatever happens once the season actually kicks off, one thing has already been settled by everything that came before it. Skattebo was never going to quietly ease back into football. He was going to do it the same way he always has. Full speed, no hesitation, and if the moment calls for it, still willing to throw his body backward into the air just to prove he can. Sources: Giants RB, Skattebo, does backflip 7 months after suffering brutal injury. Yahoo Sports: Giants Skattebo won't alter approach after injury. NFL.com. Giants RB Skattebo gives fans an encouraging look at his post-injury progress. SI: Giants Skattebo breaks out backflip just months after gruesome leg injury. AOL: Giants RB Skattebo does backflip 7 months after suffering brutal injury. Newsweek: Giants Skattebo breaks out backflip. Yahoo Sports: Healthy Skattebo gets full summer to prepare for season. ESPN: Watch Giants Skattebo celebrate HR with backflip. Bleacher Report: Skattebo hits backflip after HR. Watch closely for Giants center's reaction. Bleacher Report: Giants insider delivers Skattebo injury update. Heavy: See it. Giants Skattebo does backflip. Yahoo Sports: Skattebo just did something during softball game that has fans seriously concerned. Total Pro Sports: Skattebo takes first big step after catastrophic injury as Giants camp looms. AOL: Skattebo takes first big step after catastrophic injury. Yahoo Sports: Skattebo vows to get back to running people over. SI: John Harbaugh raves about tone setter Skattebo's electric return. SI: Skattebo slammed for behavior during softball game. The Mirror US: John Harbaugh has a small warning for Skattebo's minicamp return. Yahoo Sports: Skattebo performs a backflip after a home run. Operation Sports: Giants HC issues stern message